Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast Five by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson, and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Hello, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast Five, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, we still stick to 5 minutes, but we are going to pick out the biggest story of the week, our favourite story, the sleeper story, which is the one that's probably not getting the attention that it deserves, and the most remarkable story. So let's get into it. Sean, for you, what was the biggest story of the week?
I think outside the Ukraine, which is a hard one to talk about because so much is going on there and it changes minute by minute, Origin Energy's decision to accelerate its efforts to reduce its carbon emissions, which investors like, by closing a Hunter Valley power plant, a coal-fired power plant, which is the biggest in the country. I think that's the biggest story of the week. What it actually does is throw up all these questions about whether or not the country, and particularly New South Wales, will have a stable power supply. People will have to pay more for power prices when it closes. It's going to happen in 2025, 7 years earlier than first expected. It means consumers, businesses, heavy industry, they're likely to pay more for power. All sorts of questions come around that. Will people be more open to gas-fired power plants now when they realise they've got to pay higher prices? Will it make a difference in elections? What happens when there's disrupted supply? Huge story for the economy.
Yeah, certainly is, and it affects everyone if they don't have power for the lights. The biggest story for me, though, this week, Sean, was the employment market. And it's the biggest story because it affects everyone. Unemployment for January remained at 4.2%, better than expected, because remember, the first few weeks of January, we were in the midst of that massive surge in Omicron cases, tens of thousands of cases every day in some states. It did mean that total hours worked dropped sharply, but the overall numbers were really strong. 13,000 new jobs across the month, with part-time roles replacing full-time jobs. And you then kind of add in a couple of other things that Seek had their best month in terms of the number of job ads posted. There were more job ads posted in January than in any other month in the company's 25-year history. We heard all about this week about uni students being offered sign-on bonuses to go and work at companies, Australia Post executives with skills basically earning huge bonuses just to stop them leaving. The state of the employment market, Sean, is the biggest story for me. Great time to be looking for a job. And if you've already got one, great time to ask for a pay rise.
Fair enough.
All right. Most remarkable story. I reckon we're going to agree on this one. So you go, because there was really just one story in contention.
Absolutely. The CEO of the whiskey maker Lark Distilling, Jeff Bainbridge, quit to manage a personal matter. Now, that personal matter is an alleged case of international extortion involving an explicit video in which he appears to be smoking a methamphetamine pipe. That's ice. The video was obtained by the Australian newspaper. On it, Mr. Bainbridge appears to talk about getting high and engaging in sexual activities. Now, he's a co-founder of burger chain Grilled. He released a statement saying he attended a gathering during a visit to Southeast Asia, doesn't remember too much about it, but he has been the subject of a sophisticated, continuing and recently escalated extortion. In fact, he's already paid some money to the extortionists. What a remarkable story for a business show.
Oh, it's got sex, it's got drugs, it's got business, it's got everything. It is the most remarkable story of the week, and it's going to be tough to probably beat that one for the rest of 2022. Sleeper story, if I can nominate one for this one, Sean.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a global story. Hong Kong is planning to COVID test the entire city, which is a strategy that's been used in part of mainland China, really in an effort to get control of the latest coronavirus outbreak. The city has 7.5 million residents. That is a massive task to test everyone. But it's in response to Xi Jinping calling on Hong Kong to take action. He clearly wants it to follow a zero-tolerance COVID policy. For me, it's a sleeper story because it shows the creeping power of Beijing in Hong Kong. You just feel that mainland China is really starting to throw its weight around in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that's a great sleeper story, and that will just play out over the next few months.
Yeah. And look, can I keep rolling with my favourite story?
Sure.
Okay, international borders opening. So my favourite story is about the lengths that the airlines are going to get people onto planes again. Focus on the food and drink being offered. United is offering craft beer. Qantas has new vegan options. British Airways is doing a Sunday roast with Yorkshire pudding. British Airways has done a deal with Dettol. You get hand sanitizer. Sean, you also get an antibacterial wipe when you get on the plane. That's right. Sometimes you get pajamas and coloured pencils. Here you get an antibacterial wipe. The airlines are offering a whole lot of flexibility in bookings. You can even get COVID insurance in your Etihad fares to cover medical or quarantine expenses. Really, they are just pulling out all the stops to get people back onto planes, and I really love that story.
Yeah, I love that story too. I'm going to turn this on its head though. I'm going to talk about my least favourite story. I'm just hating the way politicians, led by the Prime Minister Scott Morrison and Defence Minister Peter Dutton, are politicising national security. The coalition clearly thinks they're on a vote winner here, and they keep saying that China wants the ALP to win the next federal election. Now, the Prime Minister called Anthony Albanese the Manchurian candidate. Labor's made a feeble attempt to fight back using exactly the same tactics. All in all, right, let's not make national security a voting issue. A bunch of people this week came out and said don't do it. Former ASIO Director General Dennis Richardson, former PM Kevin Rudd, current Defence Secretary Greg Moriarty. Partisanship on national security does no good to Australia, but it might help China. Grow up, fellas.
Yeah, well said. There we go, 5 minutes and pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and we look forward to your company then.